Welcome to today's episode of Indie West Morning. Today's June 20th, Wednesday. Thanks for joining us today. And today is our first episode segment of Academia Attack. Academia Attack is where one of us will tell the other person about something of knowledge.
Knowledgeable.
Knowledge-based. Anyways, so, on June 18th, 1812, which was, as of 2 days ago, 200 years ago, exactly, the War of 1812 started, okay? Now, so that war was between the United States and Great Britain. Okay. Do you know why it started? They're not very good reasons.
I was going to say probably or something economical.
Part of it. The reasons I saw was that Great Britain was putting an economic blockade on France. Also, American seamen were being forced into the British Royal Navy. And Britain was supporting hostile Indians, or as we politically call them today, politically correctly,
Native Americans.
Native Americans. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Now, something that was really interesting was that there were these people in Congress called War Hawks.
War Hawks.
War Hawks.
Like Daniel Webster.
Yeah. War Hawks apparently were trying to get this war started for some time because they wanted to gain territory in Canada, which at the time was owned by Great Britain. They still today have a close connection, but they're not owned anymore.
You know, interestingly, Canada was, like, they didn't fight for freedom or anything. They were turned over to be their own free nation by an act of parliament.
Yeah.
In England.
Well, that was years later, after the Revolutionary War.
Anyway, that's not the War of 1812.
No, different war. So, so these War Hawks wanted to invade part of Canada in this war and take some of Canada's territory. So, I don't know. Some U.S. troops had gone up and burned some buildings. So in retaliation, some British troops came down and burned the White House and the Capitol, which is like the main buildings of the United States. Like, that's pretty crazy.
That's the reason why it's white, because they painted over it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's all burned. And that's when they saved, like, a painting of George Washington.
Wouldn't they, like, take out the burned parts because it's not very structurally safe?
I don't know. I don't remember. I just remember that's part of the reason why it's the White House is because they painted over it.
Okay. And so the war wasn't going so hot for the U.S. government or the United States until they won a big battle called the Battle of Plattsburgh Bay on Lake Champlain. I don't know. Champlain. After that, the Great Britain and the U.S. Signed a peace treaty, and all territories were returned to their original owners.
What about the big battle in, like, the Gulf?
See, that's another. I'm getting to that.
In 1814, we took a little trip. I don't know the rest of the song, but I know it's about the War of 1812.
The peace treaty was signed, and the war.
Oh, that's right.
Ended.
I'm remembering all these little things from U.S. history back in junior year of high school.
So the peace treaty was signed, but then British troops in the on the Gulf Coast weren't aware of this peace treaty. So after the war had ended, they attacked, and under the direction of Andrew Jackson, the U.S. won the biggest victory of the whole war, and the war was ended. It was done, and that was
like 1814, I think. Was it?
I don't know. It didn't. Oh, okay. It didn't say, but that's.
We hired like everybody to fight for us. We had like Indians, pirates, like anybody. They were just like, "Hey, come join us. We're gonna go fight the British. You know, go for it." Okay. We just had like every denomination we could fighting.
Denomination.
That's not right.
Come on.
Group.
Catholics,
I don't know.
everybody.
Every group.
And after this war, one last interesting piece is they finally defined where the Canada-U.S. border was. Before that, it was kind of wishy-washy, like, this is the U.S., and Canadians were like, nah, hey, this is Canada. And so they finally were like, it's right there.
Except for Oregon, where there was a dispute over that. And that was one of the reasons that James K. Polk ran for president. That was one of the 3 things that he wanted to do, which he did in one term, and then he didn't run for a second term because he said he was going to do those 3 things. He did them, and then he was done.
Wow, look at him, Mr. Get Her Done Man.
Yep.
That's pretty good. So, June 18th, 1812, the War of 1812 started, and yeah, that we can all remember that for
forever.
Building. Thank you for building that border. Very nice of you guys. Thank you.
Well, Byron, is that about all we have to say today?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm up in the truck. Anyway, this episode of Indie West Morning has been brought to you by chocolate syrup, ice cream's best friend.
Yum.
Next to a spoon.
Next to a spoon to get it in your mouth.
Yes.
And if you know of anything else that happened on June 18th, just leave it in the comments. And we will see you on Friday, June 22nd.
Why was I waving?
Oh,
goodness.